Several years ago, a writer shared a story about his experience when his son turned 12 and he felt he was losing his connection, his closeness to him. And his son was texting all the time. This was the era when it was just starting. And so the writer, despite not being into using your phone that way, he began to text with his son. His son was responsive and taught him some of the short abbreviations. And the writer noted that the one he didn't have to be taught, because it was so self-evident, was LOL. It was obvious it meant lots of love because his son put it at the end of every text. It was, said the writer, a beautiful telegraphic abbreviation, that little arrow of love to send out to everyone you know. So over the next few months, the writer began embracing texting and said LOL to all of his loved ones. When his sister was getting a divorce, he texted, "We're with you and we support you, LOL." When his friend lost his job, he texted him, "We're thinking of you, LOL." And after a couple of months, there was a day when he was texting his son about a really difficult situation, and he ended it, as usual, with LOL. And his son finally asked, "Dad, what exactly do you think LOL means?" "Lots of love, obviously." "No, Dad," said his son, "it means laughing out loud." And the writer spent the next few days texting everyone he knew to explain. And I'm fond of this story because of how the writer sees LOL as an arrow of love, a way to connect himself to his loved ones across distance. And I myself am kind of sorry that LOL doesn't mean lots of love, but there are plenty of heart emojis to share. And this matters because we need our social connections, that sense of belonging and ties to one another. It's one of the keys to emotional wellness. Our topic today is part of our healing and growing family theme, and that's having that sense of connection. Developing emotional wellness means that we have people we can be vulnerable and open with, and we can name and navigate our feelings in ways that heal rather than harm. And that sense of emotional wellness is really rooted in a sense of trust and belonging, and knowing that you have people around you that know you and love you and understand you. It's rooted in having your needs met. There is a cartoon of an elephant on a therapist's couch saying, "Sometimes, even when I stand in the middle of the room, no one acknowledges me." That poor elephant is not getting his needs met. And when we know that our needs, including our emotional needs, can be met, we have well-being. It's the core to emotional wellness. Knowing that when we're in need, people will respond. When we're in need, we'll respond to our needs. An American psychologist, Dr. Louis Cosiano, speaks to the misunderstanding we have about Charles Darwin's survival of the fittest, which too often has just been identified as brute force, that old might makes right, triumphing over all. But for our Unitarian ancestor Darwin, who was a Unitarian, he was raised in a Unitarian family, married another woman from another Unitarian family. For Darwin, biology means that the fittest animals are those best adapted to the environment. And as environments shift, the fittest are those best able to respond, to adapt to those changes in the environment. Now, humans are as much social beings as biological animals, and our environment always asks us for ongoing adaptation. And challenges for modern humans in the West are issues like balancing the demands of work and family, information management, navigating political nuance, and coping with stress. We have to find ways to maintain our perspective, to be connected but not entangled, and to stay grounded in the midst of countless competing demands. And what prepares us best with those abilities? Dr. Cosiano argues that what makes us fit for today's challenge is early nurturance, which plays a vital role in the development and integration of the diverse systems within our brains. And those neural pathways created through healthy early relationships allow us to think well of ourselves, to trust others, regulate our emotions, and maintain those sort of positive, optimistic expectations. Now, while he argues for early childhood nurturance, we can develop those neural pathways at any age through therapy, through mindfulness, and there's other practices we can do to kind of retrain our brain to trust. And the key, as he says, is that we are not the survival of the fittest. We are the survival of the nurtured. We are not the survival of the fittest. We are the survival of the nurtured. This rang a bell in my heart when I first read it, and I find it to be deeply true. The times in my life when I not just survive, but thrive, are when I know that I am loved and cared for. When we know our basic needs will be met, when we have an emotional support system, when we viscerally feel that even in our worst moments, our lowest points, our biggest mistakes, that we are loved, we can recover. It will take time and effort, but we know we can move on. And that's emotional wellness. Being nurtured, knowing yourself loved and cared for, knowing you have people to turn to. In my mid-20s, I was living alone and I was having a really tough time. And in my head, I would recite a list of friends I could turn to. And often I could reach out and talk to them, but sometimes it was just a little too late at night. And then the list turned out to be enough. Just recalling me to my connections, just reciting this name, this chorus of people who cared for me, those golden threads of love that were truly my safety net. As Norwegian writer Arne Garborg said, to love someone is to learn the song in their heart and sing it to them when they have forgotten. Who can sing your song back to you? Who are you connected to by golden threads? Whoever is on your list in this week to come, perhaps you might text them or phone them, connect to them to some way, send them an LOL. Share your gratitude for those who nurture you, that help your emotional well-being just by being part of your social network. Nurturing community helps us develop emotional wellness by building up those golden threads between people. So for us at UCM, you could say part of our mission is to help each of us maintain a sense of well-being. We have a practice here of healing and growing to sing our songs together. We stay steady and well when we have others we can depend on, when we have trustworthy social connections. The other side of emotional wellness is managing our feelings, being able to feel both the difficult ones and the joyful ones, being able to feel and express love. As Unitarian Universalists, we focus on how we live, being present and attentive to this moment on earth. So I wouldn't say we're spiritual beings having a human experience. I would think as Unitarian Universalists, we say we are human beings having human experiences, living in our bodies, feeling our feelings, thinking our thoughts, and growing our spirits. And all of those feelings are there to be felt. They're part of being human. We need to feel those difficult feelings, the hurt, the sorrow, the anger, the fear, the meanness, to accept them all as part of being human. And we learn to manage those feelings. When we learn to accept those feelings, we're also more easily able to feel the love and the joy and the wonder. American meditation teacher Tara Brach suggests approaching your feelings as if they were wild animals in the woods. They won't come out into the field of awareness unless they sense it is safe. And that means being kind to yourself, so that when strong feelings arise, especially those ones like fear and shame, you can say to them, you belong, or you're a part of me, or you are a wave in my ocean. If you can stop resisting the emotion, feeling bad for having the emotion, it gives space for the emotion to unfurl and release, to be absorbed back into the ocean of your being. And of course, this is harder than it sounds, but it does help allow emotions to flow through rather than get stuck. Another approach is to just identify your feelings using a feeling wheel, or there's lists of feelings out there, and be specific. Am I irritated or resentful or impatient or just hungry? Taking the time to get clear about what you're actually feeling and experiencing also helps to release it. And once you understand what you're feeling, you learn. Anger might mean that a boundary has been broken. Shame might mean you didn't honor your own values. And knowing that means you can figure out what your next steps are, how you can respond and how you can heal. So part of life is to experience it, and it includes all of that spectrum of crazy, wild feelings that we have. A loving heart is open to life, open to those messy struggles. There's a Unitarian Universalist story about an elder and a child at a congregational activity making construction paper hearts. And the child makes this beautiful heart. It's all pink and red. It's perfectly and carefully decorated with glitter all around the edges. And beside the child, the elder is also making a heart. And it's a mishmash mess. It's pretty in some places, but it's got these odd bits of paper ripped and torn and glued on. And the child thinks it looks awful and offers to help fix it. And the elder smiles and says, "There's nothing wrong with my heart. It shows all of the things that have happened in my life. The beautiful pieces are my family and our special experiences." And the child asks about all the rips and tears. And the elder says, "Some are for the sad times when I was hurt or broken by life. And whenever I care about someone, they take a piece of my heart with them." And this worries the child. "But if you give it all away, you'll end up losing your heart." "Oh no," says the elder, "because they give me a piece of their heart in return." So the child looks at the beautiful, perfect heart they'd worked so hard on, and they rip off a piece and give it to the elder. And the elder smiles and rips off a piece of her mishmash heart in return. Our messy mishmash hearts are open to life. We may feel pain more deeply, but we'll also find it easier to love. And I know sometimes it can feel like the mismatch is mostly the darkness, but there always comes a time when the light and the beauty comes back up. Loving hearts offer compliments. They share gratitude, they're glad for others. And it's that openness that allows us to be one another's golden threads. So when was the last time you gave somebody a genuine compliment? A beloved elder at the Kitchener Congregation, who had known me since I had first arrived there as a young parent, came up to me at one of the final services I did there when I was studying for ministry. And she took my hands with a big smile and said, "It was a wonderful talk," and she was delighted by how I had blossomed over the years. "You've just bloomed." And she was so genuinely happy for me. And her kindness is one of my favorite memories. So why not make this week the week of compliments? As the bumper sticker says, life is fragile, love is the glue. Sharing our good feelings helps everyone. As Unitarian Universalists, we say our interdependence calls us to love and justice. So we are called to love. We are called to experience life fully, from those deepest sorrows to the greatest of joys. Let us grow our emotional connections. Let us grow our emotional wellness by nurturing our connections and opening our hearts to all the feelings. Let us be grounded in love. So say we all.